With the Yugioh vs Odo twins duel swiftly ending in a draw, as it should have, we focus heavily on the Bulgarians, as the clash between Yugioh and Zwijo intensifies, and more lore is given, making a brilliant conclusion to Season 1 of Yugioh Go Rush. Hello everyone and welcome to Dueling with Downton, and today we're talking all things episode 51 of the Yugioh Go Rush anime series. And what an episode this was. We got a lot of lore about Velgear and a great conclusion to Yugioh versus Zwijo. But first off, I want to talk about the episode presentation, as this was a beautifully animated episode with some great character interactions and expressions, and the background scenery was breathtaking. The music itself was great too throughout this episode, although my only issue with the music side of things was the ending being played at the end of the episode, because I didn't think that the outro matched the visuals we were getting on screen, because we were getting a heartfelt goodbye, but at the same time the outro itself is just super jolly. So I kind of thought it was a bit of a clash there in terms of what they were trying to present, but at the same time you could kind of see it as the characters being hopeful for the future to come. But with that being said, I really did like the way they wrapped up the Odo duel quickly, as it wasn't the important focus of this episode, but thus giving the episode the time it needed to explain Zwijo's roars/actions. The twins will surely duel Yugioh again in the future, and as for their fusion Bluetooth Rex, or whatever it was the opposite of what I wanted it to be, unfortunately. I still don't like the joint tech monsters' faces, and I would have preferred the kind of Bluetooth dragon to have been the main body, with then joint tech armor being attached to like the wings and the body itself, acting as like sort of mechanical scales. That would have been awesome to have seen. So the Bulgarians as an alien race are actually artificially created beings, created by the hooded figure, who I'm no longer thinking is actually Otis, but instead someone else entirely different. He'd known as the creator, and he made the Bulgarians and gave them this kind of loop where they're constantly in a state of life and death. Once they die, they get reborn in the Go Rush U sort of valley that we got introduced to a couple of episodes back. However, when they do get reborn, they don't have their memories, except Zwijo is an exception to this rule, because he remembers, and in doing so he learns the truth about his race, and the fact that the people of Velgear are nothing more than pawns in someone else's game. Now Zwijo being the one to learn this was perfect, as we know he's a prideful warrior and excels in the art of war. So for him learning how his life was a fake fabrication, created and planned with somebody else for their own amusement, was just brilliant, as we know this would leave his pride wounded and doubting his previous actions. Knowing that he fought and sacrificed along so many other warriors, and for that just to be in vain and all pointless, as when he dies, he's just going to return. And speaking of which, knowing that you get reborn once you've died gives you a really dangerous mindset. And we've seen this with Zwijo's actions within the series. Think about the Luger. He knew he couldn't really die, so he actually took the chance of getting close to the Luke, thus risking the effects of the aftermath of the negative waves and energy that the Luke was emitting. Even if it momentarily killed him, it was easier for Zwijo to do that and take the risk in search for power that he was after. Now, looking more towards the future, this whole idea of the Bulgarians dying and reviving without their memories makes the future a little bit more exciting, as people from Velgear who have died were not aware of this information to begin with, but now actually have this knowledge. Beforehand, they've seen no signs of people that they've recognized that have previously been dead and should remain dead. So then the question gets asked, what happens when you are revived? Are you sent to another distant part of the galaxy? Now, I would love for that answer, for that question, to be yes. Because we could have a situation where we encounter a former general or king/queen of Velgear as an enemy, who has obviously had their memories erased and are now on the opposite side. Characters like Zwijo or Yugioh could actually recognize them instead of just some random foot soldier, and I think this could offer another sort of mental struggle/hurdle for our heroes to overcome eventually. Now, to be fair, Zwijo's heart was in the right place in him wanting to give the people of Bulgaria a better life and break free from the puppet master's dreams. Yes, using Earthdomar and Rush Duels as a tool for war was a bit overkill, and he really shouldn't be trying to enslave the whole of humanity / Earth for, harvesting their Earthdomar. Like, that's a big no-no, Zwijo. But at the same time, you could say that this is a reflection on both Zwijo's fractured mind after learning the truth and experiencing continuous deaths and rebirth, as well as a reflection on war itself. As in war, you have to take from others in order to gain something personal. Zwijo has always been a character that's been on the battlefield, so war is something that's ingrained in his very soul. So you kind of see the similarities between, his plans and methods, and what war can kind of cause someone to do and think like. With that being said, though, Yugioh proves that love and friendship can conquer everything. So when a man swings his sword at you and throws hostility your way, just say, "I love you." And his anger and heart will melt. In all seriousness, though, I really did like this scene because it was beautifully animated, the effects and expressions and sound all blended perfectly together to give us this joyous moment. And I think will be a bit of a memorable moment in terms of Studio Bridge's Yu-Gi-Oh shows, when we look back on the past shows in the future. Now, I've mentioned friendship in this equation, as it was really cool seeing how everyone of Yudis' friends aided him in that final attack. As Manabu, Rovian, Yomu, Danamu, and Yuji didn't have the aces in Yudis' deck / graveyard, they still helped out by piloting those ships, allowing Yudis to continue the duel and use effects. While the other cast members' ace monsters helped power up Oblivion by being in the graveyard, basically making this deck a little bit more viable and understandable. Because, let's face it, with those high-level monsters in Yudis' deck at the start, we were kind of questioning how this would realistically work and benefit him. We even got to see that really cool panel of all of Yudis' friends as the screen kind of scrolled down, showcasing more and more characters until we got to Yudis and Yomu and Yushi, his two closest friends. Now, a main character using ace monsters from other friends and rivals isn't anything new within Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a concept we've seen time and time again. Think Yusei and using the Steiner Dragons against Zone. Think Yuga using his monsters against Otis. But it's a trope from Yu-Gi-Oh! That I love seeing, so I'm so glad we got a bit more of this in this episode. Now, I could be wrong, but Eternal Galactica Oblivion, is that the first fusion monster we've had that requires 3 materials to be summoned within the Rush Dueling format, anime-wise? And in general, this monster just looks amazing, has a really great ability, a cool design, although I do prefer the regular Galactica Oblivion design. And speaking of that particular monster, I actually really did think it was awesome seeing him get 3 equipped spell cards attached to him at once. The full armored Galactica Oblivion just looked incredible. However, I am concerned about this Gatling Gun equipped spell card being shown in the English dub of the anime when it finally, and if it gets one. Because I know Barrel Load Dragon was okay and didn't get changed, but we know how English Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't like guns, and seeing Galactica Oblivion have lollipops on his hand would be a little bit weird. The Windows new Ace Requiem Monster is the same, a really cool design looking monster, but the normal version of Requiem looks a lot better in my opinion. Even if this new fusion monster has a better and more effective ability, Void Velgear Geo Machina kind of does look like a Gear Chronicle monster though from Cardfight Vanguard. Am I the only one that thinks that? And yes, I probably did butcher that name. Apologies. Now, I have been saying that I wanted to see Ninshaw return to help Yudis, as it would have made those episodes where we introduced Ninshaw and his army a bit more meaningful. But the way he shows up and is like, the enemy arrived quicker than I thought, made me ask some questions. Like, does he mean literally? Because I can imagine him just sitting there, seeing the enemy advancing towards Velgear, and being like, should I tell Yudis? Should I tell Yugioh? And then he suddenly gets to Velgear faster than the arriving enemy fleet, and then still goes, oh, they arrived faster than I thought. Meaning he needs to make decisions a lot faster still. Anyway, this ending to this episode was a great display for Yugioh's character and played to his kind-hearted nature, making sure the twins left. Because they simply had no reason to be involved in this war, with Yugioh knowing how bad a war can be, both physically and mentally. He didn't want his friends to be subjected to that. Now, I do think that the other characters, and even the twins to some extent, knew that if they stayed in Velgear, it would have made Yugioh's battle with the enemy a lot more difficult, because Yugioh wouldn't be able to focus clearly because they wouldn't be safe. They'll still be in danger. But at the same time, I do also like the fact that this ending does showcase the faith that Yugioh has in characters like Manabu and Tenzaki, as he entrusts his closest friends to them in order to ensure that they leave safely. So yeah, overall this was a fantastic episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! And a perfect way to end off Season 1, because we still have lots of mysteries to unravel and to find out. We need to know the identity of this mysterious creator who made the Bulgarians. We need to know who the enemy is and learn more about them. And of course, we now know that Maximums are returning soon because of all the promotional images that have been linked with the new characters. I think he's called Phaser. But at the same time, so much more things to come in Season 2, and I love the anticipation that is left here. Obviously, the one thing I would have changed about this episode is I would have gotten rid of the episode preview for next week, because it would have added more anticipation and mystery to what happened to Yugioh during his battle as he walks off to face the enemy. Well, with all that being said, let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. And make sure you subscribe, because trust me, from this episode, there are going to be so many more videos, talking points, discussions, theories that I'll be bringing to you about the series of Go Rush. So you don't want to miss it. Hit subscribe, join now, and like the video if you did. Have a great day. Arigato, matane, goodbye.